misadventure with the technology, I am happy to say I'm going to take you on a very quick trip through some of the thinking that went into our strategy. You'll hear specifically where we believe our status of our divisions are, and then, of course, because of the fact we're Toastmasters and we're overly generous with the whipped cream on top, you'll hear all of the wonderful plans. So, when we started off our presentation and started pulling our respective plans together, and you happen to have that wonderful situation that comes about where you start talking to someone about something, and you go, "You too? Oh, you too!" Absolutely. And what we found is that we have a lot of common themes and a lot of common patterns, all of which were driven by a life cycle. We have our ups in our areas in our divisions, and we have our downs. I'll talk a little bit about that, but just know for now that where we are in that life cycle drove a lot of the strategy and a lot of the thinking that went into all of our plans and the respective strategies behind them. However, we also found that no matter what the weather, no matter what the season, there were a few things that we always did. First and foremost, marketing. I know that I see that big smile on Ms. Martha's face right now because we all commonly agree that marketing is a way of life. And if we haven't done it, we're doing it now because we're seeing the consequences of when it wasn't done. We always are striving to ensure mentorship for our existing member base. And that ongoing leadership development and a pipeline for the growth of our leadership is essential. And no matter what the weather, that always gets done as well. Now you see the diagram here. I'll take you through a couple of things, but hopefully I'll talk about the positive first. Everybody loves the good times. Let the good times roll. If some of you tell me some of the things that happen usually when things are going really well in an area or a division.
Lots of guests.
Lots of guests.
Lots of educational achievements.
Lots of educational achievements.
Successful contests.
Successful contests.
Strong clubs.
Strong clubs. All absolutely correct. One of the other things that we know about strategy at this time, you don't have to think twice about creating a new club. You'll have people knocking at your door begging you to create new clubs. It becomes an absolute necessity to create opportunity for the members who are there. And of course, just as mentioned, you have a lot of free publicity just based on the achievements of your members alone. Of course, we don't focus on that exclusively, but it makes it really, really easy for a PR person in that area or division. And when things are going well, the strategy becomes relatively straightforward. You create every single club that makes sense. At this time, specialty clubs become a real interesting possibility. I was talking to a colleague of mine who is a former area director up in District 4 in Northern California. He had also brought up an interesting possibility I'd never heard of before, of affinity groups, or folks of a common ethnic background collaborating together to create a new club. All of these become new possibilities that come onto the table, especially when things are going well. But of course, we've talked about the marketing and ensuring that mentorship and regular development. It sounds like a repeat, but it can't be said enough. Especially because you're going to be stocking the cupboards for, well, when things don't go so well. And you see some of the things that we mentioned here. Sometimes it can be like pulling out teeth to bring some of the tenured Toastmasters to meetings. Sound familiar? And of course, because we are leadership and occasionally we have to deal in something called reality, you have a significant percentage of smaller clubs. And if it's really in the low point of that valley, some of those clubs are consistent of a significant amount of paper members. And the accomplishment that you do have in these divisions in the area are weighed heavily on the backs of the dedicated few that you treasure, you hold on to, you acknowledge them like crazy, but you know also in your heart that something needs to change. The good news is, among all of us here, we recognize when these signs are happening and we take action immediately to get the heck out of this state as fast as we can. Hopefully some of these things sound familiar. The marketing, especially to finding your high potential members and your future leaders. Mentorship and development, leveraging on the champions you have, and maybe borrowing a couple from the division or the area next door. And as well as driving club growth. And this time, you can still do it. And we agree. We're still going to pursue opportunities for club growth, but we don't want to create a situation where we create a club just for the sake of creating a club, then all of a sudden next year, we leave a mess behind because that club wasn't built with a strong foundation. I'm glad to see with all the nods in the room that these things are very common. Remember I told you, you too! At this point, here is the status of where we believe we are. And I wish that PowerPoint gave me the opportunity to have a more cyclical diagram, where you happen to have rounder arrows that point from one to another. I promised Julie I was going to bring this phrase up. Because I believe, and we all believe, we're sitting on that upper quartile, jumping up from a good distance from reinvigoration mode. But you haven't seen the best of us yet. Of course, here comes the whipped cream on top, with each of our respective divisions giving reports and their respective strategies. We'll start off with Division A, Vanessa.
Division A, awesome we are. Okay, so what we're considering doing is starting some community clubs. One is very close to fruition, really. It's with the High Desert Medical Group, and they're actually going to be having a senior expo next month, October the 15th. And from that, we're going to have some booths to promote Toastmasters there. So what we're looking at doing is targeting seniors to get involved in Toastmasters. So in addition to being physically active, we want them to be mentally active as well. So that's what we're looking at doing, targeting the seniors. But it won't be restricted to seniors, it will be open to anyone else who wants to come and be a part. So that's what we're doing with that one. And we're hoping that from that, once the medical group sees the benefit that the seniors are getting and that the community is getting, that it will birth another corporate organization for the leaders or potential leaders in that organization. So that's what we're looking at doing. So it might be 2 in 1. So that's the hope there. We have another plan in China Lake to have a Toastmaster club at lunchtime on base, at the naval base. So we're looking at doing that because right now we have 2 clubs there in that particular area, in the Ridgecrest area, is that correct? In the Ridgecrest area. And those clubs meet in the evening. So we want to open it up to employees on base so that they can meet during their lunchtime hour. We're also looking at specialty clubs. Anthony was talking about reinvigorating some of the clubs. And one of the clubs that we really, really need to reinvigorate is one of our corporate clubs, and I talked about that a little bit earlier today. So they only meet twice a month. So we're actually looking at having them meet maybe 4 times a month, once a week, and the other two meeting times will be dedicated to impromptu speaking. So we're going to add an element to that club so that we can try to draw more members into that club and rejuvenate it. And then we're also looking at advanced clubs because we were talking about the DTMs out there who don't feel challenged sometimes. So there was one of my area directors came up with a presentation club for some of the senior people, the senior Toastmasters, to learn how to give presentations using PowerPoint. And I saw that Tim was using Prezi. So that's a newer presentation software tool. So using those software tools, using technology and presentations at the same time, because I see some of us struggling here today with presentations. So that's something that we will get into. And my area director and I were talking today. She just came up with a fantastic idea, and I talked to Guy about it already, and I already have been working on it. So he'll be getting back with me in 2 weeks with a report.
Give him a timeline.
That's right. He offered, I accepted. So what we're actually talking about doing was getting the prisons involved. There's the Tehachapi prison and the Lancaster prison, and actually offering Toastmasters at those 2 sites. And Guy was telling me, and I didn't know this, that the recidivism rate for prisoners who are actually Toastmasters is 0. So that's a beautiful thing. So if we can make that happen in Lancaster, Tehachapi, that would be awesome in our Division A.
Yeah.
Anthony.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. Of course, you've seen enough of my face right now, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hand off to my esteemed partner in crime, colleague, distinguished Toastmaster, and Division B Director, Alan Mann.
Thank you, Anthony. About a year ago, I was attending a contest in another district, and actually the district governor in that district asked me why in your district, why in District 33, that she has seen experience in Division B, why your contests are so organized and everybody seems so professional. And I told her that people like myself and many other people here were in one way or another mentored by people from like Don Inch, not me personally by Don Inch, by myself. My first mentor was by a gentleman by the name of Bill Stoll, who came from that same era and we as leaders now, I have the obligation, Anthony has the obligation, all of us have the obligation now to take the knowledge that was given to us and pass it on to the newer Toastmasters, so that that tradition of the organization, doing things formally, doing things right, make sure we need to pass that on. One thing I'm trying to do is, imagine, how many people there know Ken Smith?
Amazing.
The amazing. Could you imagine a district or division where you can clone a clone of Ken Smith? I have Ken Smith's mentoring company right now in judging. We need to pass that information on. These little things, judging in leadership, is a key portion of making the California side sustainable and growing. Because what we've learned from these more seasoned Toastmasters, that needs to be passed on. Secondly, there are opportunities in Division B for growth. Specialty clubs and corporate clubs especially. So we're going to pursue those. There are clubs, yes, unfortunately, I didn't get that portion of my report, that need some help. And I am a strong believer in the club coach program. We need to have club coaches out there on the ground available to our area directors to head off situations before they get to 8 members. There's also opportunities for synergy for 2 divisions for working together. Now, even though J and B split a couple years ago, myself and Anthony are doing a few things together. For example, we did a makeup TLI together. We each had our own TLI. And then between us on our makeup, we had 31 people total at the makeup TLI. That's pretty good on Thursday night. There are opportunities there for synergy for divisions to work together. Just because you're one division doesn't mean you can't work with another division. And one of these things, which is most importantly, is marketing. I am a buyer. I don't know how to sell. I know how to buy. Tell my wife. Usually, I know how to buy, but I'm terrible at selling. We need expertise. And there are universities, colleges within the area that have that expertise to help us, to teach us, to market. And I think at this point I'm going to talk with Anthony speak on that specifically.
Thank you very much, Alan. Specifically on the marketing plan, this was before we knew of the budget. The second I found out about the budget this morning, I'm glad that they had me sitting down. I was just about ready to do a happy dance. Our initial proposal was to take that $300 that was supposedly made available to us for a job or a trade show booth, pool that together and see if we can take $600 and make it stretch a real long way. We are both very grateful, and you've probably seen from some of the other division directors, very, very excited about the possibility of combining that with the district resources, turning into a full-fledged, legitimate campaign to support our traditional marketing model, which has largely been reliant on the individual clubs and individual club efforts to grow their clubs. We are very excited about putting together all of that pot of money, our collective minds, looking for messages that are particular to our pockets, but putting that all together into one massive campaign that'll give some aid to our club efforts. And that's what we are mentioning here on this slide. Moving forward, she gave you a little bit of a sneak peek about her strategy. I won't steal her thunder. Of course, she knows she can always make more. The ever-glowing Julie Boyce.
You wouldn't be here if you wasn't. I rest my case. I do have to glance at my notes a little bit here. I joined Toastmasters in 1998 for wanting to do other things. I had moved up from Paso Robles, I had moved up from Santa Clarita to a new area, purchased a new house, and after retiring as a very busy office manager in a counseling and psychotherapy office and medical